Hey guys, and welcome back. Today we are going to create this image viewer using only HTML and CSS. So before creating this image viewer, we are going to create this image grid also. And if you just want to create this image grid, you don't have to follow this video. I have already created and posted one video in which I have created this image grid, so you can follow that video. The link is in the description. But if you want to create this image viewer also, then you can keep following this video. We have the next and the previous buttons, and below the image we have this caption, and on the top right corner we have the close button. I have created this starter files folder which contains all the images that I have used. So anyways, let's quickly create a text document and rename the file and add .html extension to make it a HTML file. Then you can open it up in any text editor that you have. Then create HTML tag and hit enter. Write the title. Now to ensure proper rendering and touch zooming in mobile phones and other touch screen devices, we are going to use a meta tag. Then get inside the body tag and let's start with the image grid section. Let me just put up the comments. Create a section tag and the class container. Then let's start with the title for this container. Then get below it and create a div tag and write the class row space img-grid. Alright, so this will create a row in which we are going to have all the images column by column. Let's start with the first column. So get inside and let's define the columns one by one. Fit image class will be used to fit the image in the columns. Then copy this and paste it twice so that we can have second and third columns. Alright, then get inside the div of the first column and create another div inside it. Write class row, and inside this second div containing the class row, create a img tag and write the source as img/pic-1.jpg. Since the images are in the img folder, we need to specify the complete address. Then space on click attribute, open Moodle, open bracket, close it, semicolon, current slide within brackets 1. This on click attribute will make sure that if we click on this pic, then these two functions will be executed, and we are going to define these functions in the JavaScript later. So the first function will open up the model or the image viewer, and the second one will make sure that the first image is displayed. We will see how the JavaScript functions will work later, so don't worry about that right now. Let us just finish the HTML part first. Alright, then copy this entire div, paste it, make this pic-2 and current slide 2. Then copy both of these div tags and paste them in the second column. Then change the names of the images as well as the index in the current slide function. Alright, then copy this entire div, paste it, and make the appropriate changes. Then again copy these two div tags, paste them in the third column and make the appropriate changes. Alright, so we have all the images. Now get outside this image grid section and let's start with the model. Model is going to define the image viewer. So create a div tag with class model and ID as my-model. Let me just put up the comments. Then let's start with the model content. Create a div tag and write the class model-content. This will contain all the content for the model, that is the header, the body and the footer. Let's start with the header. And in the header we are going to have the close button. So create a div tag and write class model-header. Let's define the close button. Create a span tag and class close, then onClick attribute, close modal. So when we click on this close button, this close modal function will be executed. And in the text part, ampersand times semicolon. This is the code for cross. Alright, get below it. Let's define the previous and the next buttons, which are going to be used for quick maneuvering through the images. Okay, so create a e tag, that is the anchor tag, and class prev, prev, on click attribute, the value as change slides within brackets -1. So in effect, when we click on the previous button, it will execute the change slides function, and we are going to pass -1 as the value for this function so that we can go back to the previous image. Let's say we are on the 5th image, and if we click on the previous button, we will be taken to the 4th one, that is 5 minus 1, that is 4, And in the same way, in the next button we are going to pass only one, that is a +1. So let's say we are on the 5th image and we click on the next button, then the index will be 6th and the 6th image will be opened up, and we are going to see how we will execute or how we will achieve these things later when we are using the JavaScript. For now we just need to focus on the HTML, and let's get on with this and let's finish this first. And in the text part we can write a code so that we can get those previous and the next buttons icon. So for the previous button we have ampersand #10094 semicolon. Alright, copy this entire line and paste it. Change prev to next because this one is going to be the next button. Then within the change slides, make it 1 instead of -1 so that we can move to the next image. And in the text part, let's make it 10095, which is the HTML code for the next button. Alright. Now apart from the close button and the navigation buttons, the other important thing is the index number so that we can know which index we are currently on. So for this, let's create a span tag, class number text, and let's have the ID as index-number. We are going to use these class and these IDs later when we are using the CSS so that we can apply the formattings as and when we want. For now, don't get too much into the detail of these formattings and everything. Just forget about everything and let's continue with the HTML. And the header of the model ends here. So now let's start with the body of the model. Basically, the body of the model is going to contain the image, that is the main content of the model. So let's define a div tag and class model-body. Then let's define the model footer. In the footer, we can have the caption for the image if you want. Create a div tag and the class as model-footer. So this will be the footer of the model. Now let's define the model body in detail so that we can have the image that we want. So we will create the image viewer or the slideshow. So create a div tag and class my-slides and data index number 1/7. This data index number is a data attribute. Now one very interesting thing that we are using here is the data attribute, which is used to store custom data which is private to the page or the application. So in a way, the data which we are going to define under this data attribute, we can use them or we can extract them using the JavaScript and then make this data as the index number of the image. So in short, we can say that this data attribute gives us the ability to embed custom data attributes on all HTML elements, which means these attributes are going to have the data according to our need. It depends upon us what we want the name of the attribute to be and what value we are going to define inside. For example, I have given the name data-index-number. You can give any other name, but it has to start from data-. And there are some rules while defining the name of the data attribute, like the attribute name should not contain any uppercase letters and must be at least one character long after the prefix data-. And the attribute value can be any string that you want. And as I said already, I am going to extract this data or this string from the data-index-number attribute and then use this value as the index number of the particular image. So it will be very clear when we define everything in the JavaScript and when we run trial on the browser. So let's just keep going. Then get inside and define the image. For that, use the img tag. Source img / pic -1.jpg. Class portrait -image space image alt first image. Within the alt attribute, you can enter any alternate text that you want for the image. If the image is not displayed, then whatever text that you have written in the alt attribute will be displayed. This will define one image. Let's copy this entire div tag, paste it 6 times so that we can get 7 images in total. Now what we have to do is change the data index numbers starting from 1 up till 7. Alright, then let's change the alternate text for each one of them. First image, second image, third image, fourth image, and so on. Then we have to change the name of the images so that we can get different images. And one more thing, for the images which have portrait orientation, we use portrait-image class. And for the images which are having the landscape orientation, we use landscape-image class for that. These classes will be defined in a way that the images, whether they are portrait or landscape, they will take the entire width of the screen or the height of the screen depending upon the orientation of the image. If you are using any pics other than the one I have provided in the starter files, make sure if the image is portrait, then you use this portrait-image class with it, and if the image is a landscape one, then you use this landscape-image class with it. It's very simple. Then make the appropriate changes to the rest of the images. So this will define the images completely. Then get inside the model footer so that we can quickly just specify the footer for this model. We can just create a p tag, that is a paragraph text, and id as caption. So footer will be used to display the caption for the image, and this caption we are going to extract from the alternate text attribute or the alt attribute from the respective images. So with this we have completed the HTML part and we can move to the CSS. So quickly get inside the head tag again and define one external CSS file. For that, create a link tag and in the reference part write style.css. And since I am going to keep the HTML file and the CSS file next to each other, I am not defining the location of this CSS file. If you plan to keep the CSS file in a different folder, you may have to define the relative location of the CSS. Anyways, you can see I have created the CSS file in the same way I created the HTML file. That is, create a simple text document, then change the name of it and make the extension .css, and it will become the CSS file. Then open it in the text editor. Let's start formatting the body. I am going to do some basic style formatting, so they are pretty simple. You can just follow the video. Since there's no space between the h2 and dot title, that means both of these selectors are siblings of each other. So the styling will be applied to the h2 tag containing the class title and not to the other h2 tags. Then let's make the row class flex. Alright. Dot fit hyphen image space img width 100%, height 100%. This will fit the images within their containers. Section, because section is a tag and we don't have to use dot or hash selector before it. Then padding 50 pixels space 120 pixels. Alright. Then dot column padding left 15 pixel. So this will add proper padding within the image grid. Dot img hyphen grid space img margin bottom 15 pixel. This is going to add margin to the bottom of each images in the image grid. Then transition 0.5 second space ease. Transition property in CSS allows us to change property values very smoothly over a given duration from one value to another. You can see where we have defined this img grid class, and these are the img tags which are inside them, so they will be referenced by this selection. Then dot img hyphen grid space img colon hover, and this will add the hovering effect over the image grids. So we are using box shadow to add shadow to the images when we are hovering over them. Then let's start with the model. Dot model display none, because we want the model to be hidden until and unless we click on one of the image grid. Position fixed left 0 top 0, because we want the model to start from top left corner. Width 100%, height 100%, so that it takes 100% width and height of the container. Overflow auto. Background color, you can define any color that you want to define. I'm defining a black color. You can see that the model images are displayed, and even the close button and the navigation buttons are visible. So on refreshing, these will be hidden because we have made the display as none for Moodle, so they will be hidden away. Alright, and let's start with the JavaScript so that side by side we can define the JavaScript for the Moodle and then define its styling as well. So get to the part where we have defined the footer of the Moodle and get below everything, and just before the closing of body tag, create a script tag. Write the source as model.js. JS is the file extension for JavaScript. We place the script to load Moodle. Now this script tag can be placed in the body or in the head section of the HTML page. So it depends upon our need when we want the JavaScript to be executed. But placing the script at the bottom of the body element improves the display speed because script interpretation slows down the display. So we want to delay the loading of the scripts until the HTML elements are loaded. Then again move back to the starter files folder where we have defined the HTML and the CSS files. There we need to create one more text document, rename it to model.js, remove the .txt extension, then open the file in the text editor and it is ready. And also we are using external JavaScript because it has some of the advantages, like it separates the HTML from the JavaScript code. It makes HTML and JavaScript easier to read and maintain. We are not mixing up the HTML JavaScript together, so it's easier to read and maintain them. As well as cached JavaScript files can speed up page loads. So these are some of the benefits or the advantages why we prefer to use external JavaScript, but also it depends upon you. If you want, you can keep the JavaScript within the HTML file. Anyways, get inside the model.js and let's start defining the functions. Let's start with the open model function. This function is going to open the image viewer by changing the display property of the model class. So it will open the image viewer only when any of the image is clicked. So write document.getElementById within brackets within single quote my-model dot style dot display equals within double inverted commas inline hyphen flex. So this line is going to change this display to inline flex, and as a result the model will be displayed on the screen. So this line is going to get the element which has the ID my-model in the HTML page and then change its display property in the style part to inline flex. It's pretty simple if you read the words one by one. And this document object is the owner of all the other objects in your web page. So if you want to refer or if you want to select or if you want to make any changes to the page, you need to use this document. In short, this document object represents your web page. If you want to access any element in an HTML page, you always start with accessing the document object, because from using the document object you can access any part of the page. You can see that in the browser now. We have the buttons as well, even though they are not functional right now because we have not defined the associated functions of those buttons, but they are there and we can see them. All the images are there as well, and we don't want all the images to be displayed at once, so we will do that later. Anyways, now you can see that even after the model has opened up, the scroll bar for the HTML page is still visible, and we don't want to have that scroll bar because there's no point having the scroll bar for the page once the model has opened up. So let's hide that scroll bar when the image viewer is opened. Then document.body.style.overflow equals within double quote hidden. So this line is going to change the value of the overflow property to hidden in the styling part for the entire HTML body, so that we don't get that scroll bar when the modal is active. And you can see that now the scroll bar is only for the modal and the buttons are there as well. While opening the modal, we have done two things. First is to change the display property of the modal to inline flex so that it becomes visible. Then we have hidden the scroll bar for the body. Now in the close modal function, we need to do the exact opposite of the open modal. That is, first we need to change the display property to none for the modal, and then secondly we need to show the scroll bar for the entire HTML body. So I'm going to do the exact same. Copy the entire open modal function, paste it, make it close modal, then make the appropriate changes. It's very logical and very simple. Whatever we have done in the open modal function, we are trying to undo them one by one. Alright, open the browser. And you can see when we open the modal, we don't have the scroll bar for the body, and even the close button is functional now. You can click on the close button and the modal will be closed and the scroll bar for the body is displayed again. Alright, now let's declare some variables which we are going to use for displaying the images. Declare variable slide index.js and initialize it to 1. Now let's call the show slides function by passing the variable slide index.js. Show slides function is going to hide all the images in the beginning, because you can see whenever the modal is opening, all the images are displayed together, and we want to hide all of them except the image which is clicked upon. So we are going to get this done by the show slides function. And we will define this show slides function very soon. Before defining the show slides, let's define the next and the previous buttons. Function change slides. If you remember, we have used the same function in the next and the previous buttons while passing +1 or -1 depending upon the buttons. Show slides, slide index.js plus equals n. So this is a short form, which means show slides function will be called with the value slide index.js equals slide index.js plus n. Let's say the slide index.js has a value 5 and we have clicked on the next button, then +1 will be passed on to the change slides function, so that 1 will be the value of n. So in effect, that will mean slide index.js equals slide index.js plus n. That will mean slide index.js will be incremented by 1, that it will be made 6. And similarly, if we have clicked on the previous button, then the value of the n will be -1. So in effect, that is going to decrement the current value of the slide index.js by 1. Now let's display the image whose thumbnail was clicked. So for that we are using current slide function. call the show slides function with the current value of n. So now is the time to define the main function, which is the show slides function. Let's define one variable I. Let's define one more variable slides.js. This will get all the elements which has my-slides class. Equals document.getElements by class name within bracket double quotes my-slides. So all the elements which have my-slides class are now in the variable slides.js. Now we need to take into account the overflow and the underflow conditions. Overflow condition is the case where we are already on the last image and the next button is clicked. In that case, we want the first image to be displayed again. This is the overflow condition. In the underflow condition, let's say we are on the first image and the previous button is clicked. In that case, we would want the last image to be displayed again. And now let's take care of these two cases. If within brackets n is greater than slides.js dot length, then slide index.js equals 1, which means if the value of the n is greater than the number of images we are having, in that case we want the first image to be displayed, and to display the first image, make the slide index.js to 1. Slides.js.length is going to return the number of elements in the slides.js variable. Now if the slide index.js is less than 1, then we need to open the last image. If n is less than 1, slide index.js equals slide.js.length. So this means, let's say we are on the first image and previous button is clicked, that will make n less than 1. So in that case we want the slide index.js to have the index of the last image. Alright, now let's hide all the images initially so that we can display only one image. Start a for loop. I equals 0, I less than slides.js dot length, I plus plus. So this for loop will run once for each image, and we are just going to hide these images. So slides.js square brackets i.style.display equals none. Refresh it and you can see that none of the images are displayed. Now the only thing left to do is to display the image which is clicked upon. So for that, slides.js within square brackets slide index.js -1 dot style dot display equals block. We have written this -1 because we start the counting from 0. Alright, You can see all the buttons are working. Now we can display the index number as well as the caption. So for that we have defined data attribute with each of the element containing the images. So we are going to extract the value of the same attribute. So for that, document.getElement by ID within brackets within single quote index hyphen number dot inner HTML equals slides.js within square brackets slide index.js minus 1 dot get attribute, then within brackets within single quote data hyphen index hyphen number. So by this we are just extracting the value which is in the data hyphen index hyphen number and then putting the same value inside the element which has this id index dot number, so that we don't have to specify the index number again and again. We are just using one element for displaying the index number of all the images one by one. In the same way, let's show the caption for the images, and for this we will extract the data from the alt attribute. Variable images.js equals document.getElements by class name within double quotes image, because all the images are having this image class. So using that we can extract the value of the corresponding alt attributes. So document.getElement by ID within brackets within single quote caption dot inner HTML equals images.js square brackets slide index.js minus 1 dot alt. So this will extract the value which is in the alt attribute from the currently active image and then put the same value inside the element which has the id caption. We have the caption, you can see that. So this completes the JavaScript part, and now we can just format or style our web page so that the buttons and the caption and the index numbers, everything, they all look better. So get inside the style.css again, and let's start with the modal-content. And I'm going to do some stylings very quickly. They are pretty simple. You can keep pausing the video and try to catch up. So now the images are center aligned. The modal header contains the close button, the navigation buttons, as well as the index number. So display as flags. Let's align them where the flags start. Then justify content with space in between. The close button is on the left. So now you can see that the button and the index number are on the corners. Let's format the close button. Right, 25 pixel. This is going to position the close button at a distance of 25 pixel from the right of the container. Then the hovering effect over the close button. Alright. And we can add the transition effect. Then let's style the navigation buttons. Top 50% so they are vertically at the center of the screen. Some padding. Alright. So the left button or the previous button is at its right position. The right button has to be taken on the right side of the screen. So for that we can use the .next class. Then the hovering effect over these navigation buttons. Some transition effect. Now let's define the index number or the number text of each images, and they are inside the Moodle header class. So let's select them. Alright. Now let's define the Moodle footer class so that we can style the image caption which is below the images. Display as flex. Align item at flex end because we want them to be at the bottom. Then justify them in the center horizontally. Then let's adjust the image sizes. And as I have already explained that for the portrait images we are going to be using this portrait-image class. For the landscape image we will be using landscape-image class. So let's define those classes. Portrait images are displayed according to the height of the screen so that they are not bigger than the height of the screen, and height is 89 VH. because we want to keep some part of the screen for the buttons, the image caption and paddings. In CSS we have two different types of length units. One is the absolute, second is the relative. And for the absolute one, we simply define it in centimeters or pixel. And in relative length units, we define the relative length units relative to another length property, so they scale better between different rendering mediums. And this 89 VH means relative to 89% of the height of the viewport, and viewport is the browser's window size. You can see that. In the same way, we are going to define landscape-image class, and with that we will use width. (69 VW) means it will take the 69% of the width of the viewport or the browser's screen. Alright, so you can see the images now. And if you want to try, you can try changing the size of the viewport and see how well the images scale to the size of the screen. So with this, the image viewer is complete, and we can just add the media queries to have the responsiveness for the website so that they look better on small screens or tablets or any other different screens. So for that, let's start with media query. Add media space screen space and within bracket max width 768 pixel. So the changes that we are going to define now will be applicable when the width of the screen is below 768 pixel. Basically below 768 pixel, we would want to change the size of the close buttons, the S2 tag or the number text, so that they are small in small screens, so that they don't take up much space of the screen. Because in small screens we are already running short on screen, so we don't want to waste them having big close buttons or big text. So let's do that. Alright, you can make the changes as you wish. And if you cannot see the changes in the browser, then you can use exclamation mark important rule. When we use this important rule, it overrides any other definition for the same value. Let's say the font size for h2 is defined somewhere else in the CSS part, and if you want that definition to be overridden by this one, so you just write exclamation mark important. You can see the effect. So with this we have successfully completed the entire image viewer. This was one of the very simple image viewer that we have built. There's one more image viewer that will be coming in the subsequent videos, so stay tuned for that. It will be coming very soon. I'm working on it also. And apart from these, if there's any topic that you want me to make videos on, or if there's any topic that you find very hard to learn, then you can let me know down in the comment section so that I can take up those topics as well and make videos on those topics so that I can help you better. As for this video, everything is finished. You don't have to do anything. You can go on use this image viewer in your project or for practice, for any purpose that you want. So that's all for today. I'm going to see you in the next videos. So you know what to do. Keep liking, keep subscribing, keep commenting, keep letting me know that you guys are following my videos. We will meet very soon. Till then, take care and thanks for watching.